Hi, Feel the Magic facilitators. This is Dr. Robbie Fullerton, head psychologist of Feel the Magic. I'm reaching out to you today to go over our de-escalation support plan. There's a few other things around that I'll review. To begin with, the signs that a child is in high distress, as well as what to do once we've gone through that support plan in terms of reporting back to the coordinator or even myself if it's necessary. So, to begin with, understanding a child is in distress. So you may notice certain things other than obviously having an outburst or being incredibly tearful during a session. There may be more subtle things to look out for. And this may be the build-up toward having one of those events where they become highly distressed. You may notice excessive distractibility or disruptive behavior, erratic behavior that may be somewhat violent, more aggressive than the situation calls for, or even just kind of losing control when they should be regulating themselves or when they should be behaving well. May even notice risk-taking behavior, so kind of putting themselves in harm's way just needlessly, or disturbed thinking. So they may be expressing some disturbing thoughts, and you may notice their affect or their behavior reflect that as well. If you've been observing this child throughout the program, you may notice maybe the night before or day of they refuse to eat or they're not sleeping well. That can always lead to some high levels of distress. They may also be somaticizing or expressing their pain or discomfort or emotional dysregulation through their body, what we call somaticizing. So more stomach aches, headaches, complaints of pains or nausea. So just keep a lookout for that. They may not express that they're highly distressed, but sometimes you'll notice those complaints before some type of meltdown or dysregulation episode. You may also notice increased nervous habits like nail biting, skin picking, more fidgetiness, or even hair pulling. So just keep an eye on some of these things as they can lead to or be signs that the distress levels are increasing. Also, very important, any signs of self-harm. So expressed wants to kill themselves, to harm themselves through cutting or some other method, we take that very seriously. And in addition to going through the distress management plan, or I should say de-escalation support plan, we want to report those things to the coordinator of your program and or myself, depending on the circumstances. And I'll go through that at the end of the session. So first things first, when you notice the child is in distress, a lot of times this is after they've expressed they're feeling a 7 out of 10 on the distress meter or above, and you need to kind of address that. Or they haven't even expressed their number, but rather you see they're inconsolable, they're acting out, or they're becoming incredibly tearful during a session, and you can tell they just really need your support in the moment. I'm going to go through these line by line, and then I might just do a little bit more explanation as I go. So first of all, approach the child as calmly as possible. This sets the child at ease, that your calming presence can have a comforting kind of effect on the child. It also communicates that this really big emotion that may seem very overwhelming is something that is not going to overwhelm you, that is something they can get through. And at the end of the day, emotions do tend to dissipate over time, even if in the heat of the moment it feels very overwhelming. Remind yourself that you're not intervening to fix anything in particular. So you're not there when you see this really big emotion to take it away. If anything, you're just there to create, open, and manage a space where that big emotion can be addressed and eventually kind of dissipate. And we'll go through some of the steps for that. But yeah, you're not there to fix. If anything, it's sitting with that emotion with the child so they don't feel alone in it, and then going through some steps that are evidence-based and have been proven to help de-escalate a client or child in this case. So, if you are in a camp program rather than the healthy grieving program, you can offer to take that child outside the room that they were triggered in. So, typically, that's your um, Camp Magic room, your Camp Magic facilitator room. Or if you are doing the online healthy grieving program, you may offer to take that child into like a breakout session or have them just hang back or invite them to a breakout session at the end of whatever session you might be in, just to be able to check in if you've noticed that they've been triggered by something and it seems to have affected them a great deal. Um, then at least they have some space to cope with that. Oftentimes, changing the environment, changing the surroundings, even if it is online, a different group where not all these people are kind of looking at you and focusing on you're in distress, can help the child calm down as well. Um, Once you've moved and you can kind of allow that child to express themselves, feel whatever they're feeling, just invite them to describe their felt experience. So ask what feelings are emerging, where are these emotions sitting in their body, or is it creating tension in their shoulders? Are they feeling kind of this burning in their chest or a pit in their stomach? Is their head swirling? Or do they feel a bit dizzy? Like, really get them in the here and now. A lot of what we're doing in the de-escalation process is kind of allowing them to connect with the present moment. A lot of times when they become dysregulated, it's because they're overwhelmed with thoughts, narratives around kind of past regrets or past experiences that were very hurtful that they haven't fully processed, and they're kind of bringing into the present moment. Um, Judgments about themselves or previous circumstances that are coming up in the moment. Maybe even fears or anxieties about the future, given what they've experienced, or maybe what someone shared during the session. So, a lot of those can create these really swirling thoughts and narratives that trigger us emotionally and take us out of the present. Um, Being able to sit with whatever's coming up emotionally, whatever's coming up physically, and realizing, well, this may be coming up, but I am safe, is great to de escalate those emotions rather than kind of feeding that catastrophic thinking that can lead to, yeah, just a swirl between catastrophic thought to increased anxiety or fear and then escalate and spiral. So, uh, first and foremost, just employ reflective listening, validating the child's emotional experience as you invite them to share. So, I put some examples of that on the plan. You might say, I can see how David sharing that would make you feel really sad because you went through something similar. Or just something as simple as if you see them going through a lot of pain, acknowledging you're feeling really hurt right now. Um, it just helps to see that someone else is seeing and kind of feeling with you in that moment, and that you're able to kind of be that third party providing support and comfort again, and not letting that emotion overwhelm you as much as it's disturbing the child in the moment. Um, After you've given them some time to express themselves, get in touch with where they're feeling all of that distress in their body, offer to practice a grounding technique. And it can just be an invitation. You know, sometimes hand on heart really helps. Do you want to do that with me? Or do you think we could just do a hand on heart really quick? I wonder if that's going to help. Um, Really kind of more asking permission or inviting rather than saying, this will make you feel better and that kind of thing. Um, yeah, just putting it very lightly. And I would do it with them. I know that you'll be kind of doing the counting and that kind of thing, but do all the actions with them so they feel like you're in it together. Um, let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading a little bit. Yeah, so Hand on Heart is kind of the self care and emotion regulation tool we use throughout camp to regulate and reduce distress. Um, we do practice it quite frequently, mostly because we want them to be able to use it on the ready as these kind of distressing events occur. So you'll just invite them to do the hand on the heart, and I'll just go through why this is somewhat effective when they're going through high distress. Just the physical touch is kind of grounding in its own right. It also somewhat feels like a hug. You're kind of touching the body. You can feel the warmth of your hand on your chest. It helps to increase those physical sensations that ground the body in the present moment. Um, the breathing is actually de escalating the physical arousal. So, physiologically, when you're in that level of distress, um, emotions are running high, your heart rate might go up, you might notice your temperature increase, you might notice a tightness in your chest, or even, yeah, like a pit in your stomach. The breathing actually slows down the heart rate, helps your body cool itself down, just takes it from that fight or flight back into your baseline level of arousal. And once you're back to baseline, you typically do feel more resilient, you think more clearly, and yeah, it's just a lot better frame of mind to go on to the next thing. The counting gives the child something to focus on cognitively or in their thoughts, rather than whatever distressed them. So, obviously we're not just trying to distract. Maybe in the moment we are, so then they can reflect back on what triggered them in a more clear state of mind. But we do want to get their mind onto something else when they're in that really peak level of distress. So the counting is a helpful thing to just get their mind on something else. Um, it also kind of brings that present moment awareness to what they're doing as well. So once they've done maybe 4, 5, 6, however many breaths you think it's going to take or they require to get to a lower level of distress, um, there's some signs that you can look out for, like the tension leaving their body. You might notice their shoulders kind of relax, or the breaths become a lot easier. If they were like previously hyperventilating, you might notice that they're settling into the breath a lot easier. And maybe you only need to do 1 or 2 more after that just to make sure that they're in the right place. So use your judgment. Again, I would kind of role model the behavior, but obviously you're not completely breathing with them because you're having to count. Um, but yeah, do it with them, and then end when you think they're in a good spot. Once you can see that they are less distressed, um, and you want to touch base again, I would ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of distress now? So, what's your number now? We do this throughout the program as well. Kids will be very well versed in it. Um, and if they're still at a 7 or above, it may be time to come up with a plan. All right, well, what's our next step? What's something that typically helps you unwind or relax? Or what other strategies have you used in the past when you're particularly upset? And they may use things that they can do on their own to self regulate, like listen to music, draw, journal, any number of things. And you can encourage them to do that as soon as they get back to their bunk or as soon as they get off of the call with you if it's the online program. Um, if it does require my attention as head psychologist, you can, if it's a camp, walk them over to me or make an arrangement or arrange a time for us to speak. Usually I'm pretty available while I'm at camp. If it's in the online grieving program, you would get in touch with Nick or Nikki, our coordinators, and then they can book session time with me so we can review how they can regulate their emotions better or what we need to do. Um, Typically, after going through those steps and the breathing, kids have lowered their level of distress, and you won't need to do kind of that future problem solving. But it is good to have something in mind or suggest something at the end of the session. If they're at a high level of distress and you think more of the breathing or more hand on heart would be helpful, then just run them through it a couple of times until they say, what, I think I'm back down to 3, 4, 5, whatever. Um, um, yeah, so that's pretty much the protocol. If you do end up identifying a child in high distress, practicing this de-escalation support plan, and you're all finished, I definitely would provide an incident report to Nicole Suffling. So any of the Healthy Grieving Program participants would need an incident report placed and emailed to Nicole. If it's a Camp Magic program, then either coordinator, if it's New South Wales or ACT, Nicole Suffling, or if it's down in Victoria, then Nikki Webster. Just make sure you document, what was the context, so what might have triggered the child in becoming highly distressed. How did you know they were highly distressed? So what behaviors or emotional triggers you saw, and then what did you do to help them regulate their emotions. Just put that all in a short report, give it to the appropriate coordinator, and like I said, if they still seem risky or you think it needs my attention, just put a suggestion that they come speak with the head psychologist, and I'll seek them out to make sure that they're supported as best as we can. So as always, guys, I'm always here to support you and to make sure that you feel confident in handling these really distressing situations. It kind of puts you on the spot as well, and I know it's kind of a lot of pressure. I hope some of these suggestions and techniques have made you feel a bit more confident in what to do when you get into this situation. I know on a case-by-case basis, it's really going to vary and you're going to have to think on your feet, but at least this gives you kind of guidelines to go by. Again, if all else fails, go through this, and then if it still seems like you're feeling they're not quite de-escalated, that they're still emotionally dysregulated, that they need some continued support, make a booking with me if it's the online program, or if you're at camp, just come seek me out and I'll make time to make sure that that child's given the support they need. If you need to consult, like you're noticing some of those signs of distress, but the child hasn't really had a full-on episode yet, just come consult me as well. Just at camp, pull me aside, or again, you can email me at wellbeing at fieldofmagic.org.au if it's the online grieving program. So that's it from me. Do get in touch if you need my continued support, and best of luck in these situations. You're going to do great. The most important thing is just reassuring and comforting the child, letting them know that you're there. Some of these tools are really helpful, but don't underestimate just the power of having a supportive and comforting voice standing next to you when you're in high distress. I think we've offered that to each other throughout the camp. We've been afforded that through friends and family members, so don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just do your best, and there's always other supports around if that child needs continued support. All right, that's it from me. You guys take care. Bye.